Welcome to this episode of The Spin-Off, the CPG's monthly show, interacting with interesting people and interesting topics from the world of golf. Our last episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing or chatting to Stefan Quimback, 25 years or so as president of the PGA of Germany. His legacy just stood down as president of the PGA of Germany. Feel free to tune into that podcast. Stefan shared some great insights as to the development of German golf. And today we switch our attention and our geography to the other side of the Atlantic, as I'm joined by two significant leaders from the game of golf in Canada. They will undoubtedly provide a fascinating insight into the state of the game in Canada. And the very fact that they're on here together today suggests great collaboration between the two, and hopefully great camaraderie between the two as well. So firstly, PGA of Canada have been a very valued member of CPG for a number of years, and always been very willing to share knowledge and fully partake in CPG activities. Firstly, through my great friend Gary Bernard, and then later taking over a newer great friend in today's guest, who became CEO in 2017, Kevin Thistle. Kevin, nice for you to take the time.
Thanks, Ian. Anytime. I love what you guys are doing. Of course, I've been to your, the Congress many years. Hope to be back this fall, and you do so many great things. I think that in the spirit of collaboration we talk about all the time, I think that's a great thing that Laurence and I do, who are also, we've been great friends for a long time before our roles even. But I do want to say that with CPG and of course, even your prior Congresses, I've always enjoyed the information sharing that all the countries, how giving they are of information, etc.
And 37 years, I think, counting. 1984 became a PGA of Canada member, so significant number of years with the PGA badge on your chest, and it's obviously going to be great to get your insights, Kevin. And joining us, started with Golf Canada the same year as Kevin. You became CEO of the PGA of Canada. Laurence Applebaum. Laurence, you're 25 years or so in sports management. I know you've had a very different sports, varied roles across the sports. Tennis played a big part in your life for a while as well. And again, we've become friends through meeting up at various events across the golfing calendar. So Laurence, again, to you, thanks for taking the time to join us as well.
Thanks, Ian. Very nice of you to invite me into your CPG world, similar as Kevin has into the PGA of Canada world. I just can't say enough about the work that's being done in Canada and around the world. And a big shout out to your previous episode. I really enjoyed listening to Stefan. I spent about 7 years in Munich, and proud member of Platzreichen in Eschenried Golf Club for many years, and it's really nice to see the growth going on in Europe as it is in Canada right now. So kudos.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Lars. A great city, Munich. Surrounded by, whatever you want to do, whether you want to ski, watch football, drink beer, it's got everything you need. What a great city. I'm going to start then, and we talked about it, and Kevin talked about it there, collaboration. So I think it's pretty obvious to see that there's a strong collaboration between the Federation and or Golf Canada and the PGA of Canada. Maybe you can just, give me an overview as to what that's like. Is it a formal engagement? Has it been long-standing? I'm sure it has challenges, but just as to how you work together.
Yeah, Laurence, I'll start off there. It's funny because I started November of 2017, and Laurence had preceded me. He was already in his position, and I was very excited because Laurence and I have known each other for years before our current roles. But it's amazing because towards the end of November was my first Congress with CPG, and it was in Greece. And one of the breakouts was about, collaboration, let's say. And we went around the room, because it was breakout rooms, and said, 1 to 10, what's your relationship with your federation, which would be Golf Canada, our standpoint. And, I don't want to mention some names, but some people say 5 or, oh, it isn't great. And I went, I don't know, I'm 9.5. I'd love to say 10, but, I haven't been here long enough. I'm sure there's some skeletons, but I said, really? And people would all week would then come up to me and say, okay, so what do you mean 9.5? I go, well, I said, we do have a formal agreement with teaching, etc. We do a lot of programs together. Of course, we're our own entity, but it's amazing, and it's it was tough for me to hear, because I've got some great friends all over the world, as you know, Ian yourself, and I love collaborating with. And I have a hard time when they're having a tough time with their federation, where sure, there's always some bumps in the road, as there has been for probably the last 50 years or whatever, between PGA and Golf Canada, previously RCJ sort of thing. But in our history right now, the last 4 years, the last 10 years, last 20 years, it's been so collaborative. And I'm not saying we have to agree on everything. I don't think that's healthy. But it's just been great that I can pick up the phone to Laurence or any of his staff, or we can meet and we can do things like this. And really, if there's an issue, we're going to work it out. And that was something that worldwide really hit me. Then a lot of my friends, who I know are very good people, et cetera, are having maybe a tougher time with their governing body federation than we are. And that really opened my eyes. And I think kudos to Laurence, because even since he's taken over, he has been very inclusive with every association within the golf industry. And I can echo that from all the other associations.
Ian, can I answer the same question?
Absolutely. Hopefully as positively.
Well, I'll say that what's so interesting is that Kevin and I both come into these rooms together always knowing that we're both for golf. Like we're thinking about being for golf first. And actually, I'd probably start with a base level and knowing that Kevin's coming in with his entire, his incredible pros across the country, figuring out how we're going to say yes to things, how we're going to do things together. But at the same time, Kevin doesn't hesitate in also outlining where there might be some areas that we got to really work through, or some challenging areas. And so being candid, being honest, telling me, hey, you haven't really considered it this way. He's not afraid, and neither am I, of telling him the same thing. But we know at the end of the day, we're both for golf, we're both for growing it, and we both think we're in this golden moment of the sport that we're going to make some hay, as we say in the south of the U.S. We're going to really get going, and that's the spirit that Kevin brings every day to his job, and I try and emulate that.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and I love that, to try and work out how you're going to say yes, and that's I think that's a fantastic statement, saying that we're always trying to progress. We're trying to find a way to progress, and I think the other thing that's absolutely key in these relationships is trust. And obviously, you can see that's there, but between you and your respective organisations. And I guess going back to Kevin's point, I think one of the things I'd like to obviously be able to do from today's podcast is just take some snippets away that other countries can think about how they apply. You're obviously a very established golfing nation with a significant level of participation, but the same principles apply. The same principles of the federation, the Golf Union or Golf Canada having its goals, and in providing you with a skilled workforce that's going to help you achieve those goals. And do you have anything formal in place? I know a lot of it is informal, but just because sometimes tensions arise through sometimes in unmeaningful ways, but just confusion as to whose responsibility a particular area is. How do you define that?
Right. I think that we do have agreements in our position on coaching, teaching, etc. It's amazing where, you know, that the programs that are laid out through Golf Canada, it's a great thing is that we are the teachers. Like when you go to the Olympics, the great thing is you see our teachers there, which I think is just fantastic. Or you'll see the grassroots, you know, we'll talk about First Tee after, but historically, be it Future Links, that there would be a Future Links, you know, program. That's what we called it in Canada. And you know, the heart of the teaching there was the PGA of Canada professional. And we also have a great thing, we've talked about this at the CPG level, of community coaches. Across the world, they call it different, but there's some areas that don't have, say, maybe enough PGA of Canada professionals, or, you know, even at my own golf course, say here, we have, you know, a lot of juniors, and I don't have enough PGA of Canada professional staff. Well, you bring in a community coach, you bring in someone who can help. So there is parameters, there is some you know, formal agreements with that, and like you said, there's many informal also besides.
And you know what's interesting, Ian, is that that formality isn't the basis of our relationship. Like in reality is I have to actually make sure where actually are the formal ties. I have to check, because Kevin and his key staff are in every part of our key decision making behind the sport. So Kevin's lieutenants sit on our sport committee, which helps define everything from our amateur championships, our player development, all the coaching aspects. They're right inside of it. And at the same time, we also, I don't know if everyone universally knows this around the world, but as a national sport federation, of which there's about 70 in Canada, we're the only one where coaching is outside of that national sport federation. So skating, hockey, tennis, badminton, anything, soccer, the coaching resides right inside of it. And people sort of forget that actually we're the only sport where the official status of coaching actually resides outside. And it actually is one of the fundamental successes of the sport, is that we try, and Kevin tries, his goal to be in every single golf community, golf club, there's a PGA of Canada professional. And it's one of the big strengths. But as Kevin also said, especially in moments like today, where demand is so high, supply is not always meeting that, we're able to use the PGA of Canada professionals to help train, to help teach, to help enlist community coaches where it may need to happen. And I think that extension of the coaching expertise is one of the absolute strengths amongst the many strengths of the PGA of Canada right now.
Yeah, totally. And I think something that we want to share into other countries is this community coaching, activators, whatever we want to call them. But and it's good to hear that you've had success stories with them. You know, quite often there's fear there from PGAs, there's fear from PGA professionals that actually, you know, these community coaches not used well can kind of conflict a little bit with the PGA pros. But done correctly, I see it absolutely, you know, one complements the other extremely well, and it's good to hear of your experiences on that front. Sorry, Kevin.
To throw in there, you had said about little tidbits, and the one thing I'd love to talk about really quickly about the PGAs and the federations around the world is that, you know, Laurence said earlier, you know, both of us walk in the room and we're there for golf, the betterment of golf. And sometimes I find that, and I don't want to use the word ego, maybe not a good word, but sometimes there's those agendas. And I've talked to many federations, you know, in our meetings, and I've talked to many pros and PGA, you know, around the world. And I've said, you have to both go in there and say, what's best for the golfer in your country? It's not who wins the war. It's not who gets to pad their chest, because that's to the detriment. If someone's winning and says, look, look how I control that other association. No one's winning that. You've got to work together. I always say to them and say, what's the biggest thing? I think that, and Laurence said it so eloquently, which he does better than myself. I'm just sort of a Scarborough kind of, meathead kind of thing. But it's like, the great thing about it is when you walk into the room, you've got to say, what's the best thing for the golfers in your country? And if the PGAs and the Federation can just think about that, it's not about the ego. It's not about what's best for me. It's what's best for the golfer. And that's, that's what Laurence alluded to, a little while ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Progress over protectionism every single day of the week. Well said, Kevin. And obviously, numbers booming. You've alluded to that. Like golf in most corners of the world, we're in a fortunate position. Obviously, the pandemic has far more downsides than upsides, but one of them has been an upside has been its impact on golf participation and how it's started to shift the dialogue from, and I think you were already there in Canada, because I know it's come up previously where we're obviously seeking new audiences for the game. We're obviously seeking new golfers. But retention now has become much more of a key topic as well. Again, just share some things that you guys are working on in order to capitalize on this boom.
I'll throw it to Laurence first there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've been waiting. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a couple of weeks now. So I got some numbers to launch that. My goal is to make Kevin's, eyebrows raise. So yeah. We finished our season. Ian, in Canada, we have a very intense but shorter season. We registered over 9 million scores that were put into our score center, our handicap system. So 9 million scores that we've never breached that level in our history. So 9 million scores. And the joke always is, we have 14 days to play golf in the country, before the end of winter and the start of the next one. So that's a lot of scores to put in those days. The two most incredible facts that I was so thrilled to see is the number of people who played 50 or more rounds.
Wow. Went
up by almost 150% in the last 2 years. So this is incredible numbers. Almost 67,000 people in our country played more than 50 plus rounds. And that's only from those folks who put their handicaps in. So the number of people who are playing, the avids are playing an incredible number. But the really, really exciting news for us on the age front, in the last 2 years, the average age has dropped 2 years in the last 2 years. So 4 years in total. And now we're starting to see the average age of all of our members playing or registering scores being almost 50. We're just above 50 right now. So overall, Kevin and we're doing some work together in the year ahead to actually do a real true golfer census and to find out really how many people, not just those according to scores, but how much did they really play. Our play has just been off the charts. Golf is getting slightly younger, believe it or not, which is really great to see in this pandemic moment. And then also is just the avid players, along with some of the new and returning players, are just off the charts. So I wanted to, really exciting breaking news to share with you both.
It is very exciting news, definitely.
And the exciting thing about that is unlike, let's say, you're in England, I believe, right now, and you belong to a club, and I would say you have a very high percentage of some countries I know, including your own, where the golfer is a member of a private club or the golfer must have a handicap. Well, in Canada, for the last, say, 10, 15 years, that hasn't been it. There's more golfers, of course, who haven't come to the handicap system. But now they're starting to, which is amazing that there's 9 million scores put in, because, I've said this on almost every podcast or every time I'm asked. Played slow pitch baseball for 20 years with the same group. Some retire, maybe the sons come over. And I'm going to say 3 years ago, there's a couple guys on my team, they played twice a year. Some play zero, but there was two gentlemen played twice. And last year, instead of baseball, we played golf every single Tuesday, 9 holes. Just a local golf course, great. And one of our gentlemen who played 2 rounds, maybe 1 round, 2 rounds, he played 92 rounds last year. And then again this year. So we've got probably just out of our 20 kind of friends there, probably half of them went from 0 to 5 rounds a year to 30 plus rounds, all of them. And out of the 20, 12 of them either joined private clubs or bought the 20 pack at the local golf course sort of thing. So it's amazing that like the numbers that Laurence has mentioned is that like for all these people to play over 50 rounds, unheard of years ago per se, right? Or the 9 million scores, unheard of. So those are great stats that I'm going to keep in my back pocket because absolutely my eyebrows were raised there.
Yeah, they're fantastic stats, and I guess I'm just interested in what you think has been the major drivers of those things, because obviously the pandemic's caused a change in lifestyle for many people. So that's obviously a factor. Maybe the world handicapping system, we're seeing the impact of the world handicapping system over into parts of Europe where the nomadic golfer, as you alluded to there, Kevin, is being embraced into the handicapping system more regularly over here as well. So that's making it easier for people to put in scores. But are there particular programs, particular factors you think have made a big impact here?
Sure, I'll jump in there, Laurence. I think what's happening is you're seeing a lot of people returning to the game. You're seeing a lot of people who, of course, there was not a lot to do in the last 18 months, so newcomers. But the great thing is, I think a lot of the people I'm finding that are coming back to the game are enjoying the game. You know, it's one of those things where you can play with your family, play with the kids. We've known this for years, but I think it's enjoyable. And I had a meeting this morning with one of our master professionals, a Hall of Fame member, and he was trying to get to the core of this also and said, how do we now keep retaining them? You know, it's great that Golf Canada did this fantastic program. You should look at it. I mean, it was a marketing program. You know, just get out and play sort of thing, right? Was the premise of it. And what my master professional was saying today is like, we've got to make sure that the younger people who have never taken a lesson, like the stats kind of show that maybe 10% of the people in Canada take lessons. So we've got to make sure that the retention, they're having fun. There's no doubt about it. They're playing more rounds of golf. Like any golf course I talk to is up 30%. And Laurence will have more stats than that. I've got golf courses that I talked to that went from 22,000 rounds to 30,000 rounds to 40,000 rounds, almost doubled in 2 years. Like amazing. And every single course you talk to, and we have a lot of chapters in Canada, so I'm talking to people across Canada. It's amazing if we can keep them, even if things get back to normal, in the next fiscal year, whatever. I still think we have a great chance of retaining a lot of those players. But I think the core of it too is to get them to play and have fun. So we're actually now brainstorming, how do we retain them? And I think retention is if you're having fun playing the game and you're getting better, you're going to play more. If you're not playing well at all and you're losing 7 balls around and it's, it was fun for a while, we don't want to lose those players. So there's something we're talking about collaboratively, is that how do we get them to stick? How do we get them to have fun? How do we get them into lessons programs? And the amazing thing coming up is Laurence launching the First Tee program, where we can get to so many more young people to get them started in the game. And it's not just about the golf. It's also about life lessons, which I love. It's about giving them life skills and give them golf skills. And really the life skills and that sort of thing. The life lessons are probably more important than the golf skills, to be honest.
I think Ian, Kevin alluded to a marketing campaign that we did. We actually had an industry advisory council. So we put a group together. It had PGA professionals, it had owners and operators, it had had a superintendent on it, and a couple of people from the industry, the golf, the golf equipment industry. And we'll forward that so that you could play that as maybe a part of the end of the podcast. But it was younger in visuals. It was upbeat. It was showed the new face of golf, and this Golf is Calling was the invitation to play. And maybe to use an analogy for football, golf's never been a sport of registration, the way football in Europe or soccer in North America is. You'd sign your kids up, you'd sign your young daughter, your young son, they just play soccer. But you didn't have that funnel for golf. You don't just register for golf. You kind of have to be invited by a friend, a family. Maybe it's in your family, maybe it's not. So we've tried, through the PGA of Canada, Golf Canada, and the rest of our NAGA partners, is to make golf the sport of invitation. Bring more people. Golf is calling. And I think that it resonated with people. I think people, for lack of choice, and we're quite humble in saying, without not much else to do, people heard that calling to golf, and they, as Kevin said, they returned to the game, they were introduced to the game, and first and foremost, we saw this major spike of avids. And I would turn to a point that Kevin made, which was the retention of people is what we're thinking about every day in our organizations, and trying to think. And one of them is, there were some legacies of COVID about speed of play, about the spacing out of tee times, which allowed for a really positive experience. And I know many owners and operators are finding that right balance to maximizing revenue, maximizing the amount of people, because the demand is out of this world, but also continuing to maintain that experience. And we've talked to a lot of operators who have said their consumers continually come back because it's been a great experience. So that's where we're really trying to do a lot of work with our partners and stakeholders to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Well, the very sentiment that golf is welcoming you, I think that's fantastic. And then once you're there, as you say, if you get a welcoming experience, once you've been welcomed, then you've got every chance of enjoying that environment and sticking. And then Kevin then touched upon First Tee. Obviously, First Tee, hugely successful in the States, hasn't traveled well. It's been tried in other countries and not overly successful. Obviously, you're a lot closer to the USA than anybody else. But what's inspired that, and what are you seeing it bringing?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect statement. It hasn't traveled well. And I will tell you that I bet you there is so many people who have heard First Tee 100 times, 1,000 times, and still don't quite get it. And I'll tell you it in the simplest way, which resonates with me. First Tee is a life skills program that uses golf. Simple as that. And where Kevin and I first met each other was when he was running one of the iconic clubs in our country called Angus Glen, and I worked for a company that came into golf late, which was Nike. And the boom that came around with Nike Golf, and especially at places like Angus Glen, was obviously the introduction of Tiger Woods. But what also came along at that time in the US was the launch of First Tee. And it has evolved from being an urban golf program to being a program that was for an entry point for so many young people to learn life skills, to have mentors, to have a program that they could learn so many good lessons of life, and using golf as the ultimate medium. And so First Tee, we've been talking for years. And in 2021, we launched 3 chapters in Canada, in Ontario, first in British Columbia, then in Ontario and Quebec. So our 3 of our 4 most populous provinces. And by the end of next year, we'll be in every province in the country. And our goal, between the PGA of Canada and Golf Canada, is that we're gonna have clubs in the hands of 100,000 kids by 2023. And so for us, it's a really big, bold vision. and we're going to affect lives, and we're going to affect a lot around the golf milieu. So we're really excited. And I will tell you, if there's one thing, Ian, that I think has a high upside in Europe, is the adoption of a program like this. Once it starts to travel well, first in places like Canada, but there's some pockets around the world where it's doing some interesting things. And I'll tell you, fast forward a couple of years, and I think there'll be a couple of markets in Europe where it's primed for real growth and success. So I'd say hopefully you can keep watching what we're doing, and we're looking forward to being, enabling whatever guys your marketplaces might need. We're in the midst of it right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always struggled to work out why it hasn't, because as you say, that message of enriching lives and producing life skills through the game, that's universal. That's not about any particular country. Kevin, this must resonate well with you. I know you're a keen volunteer in the community, and it's exactly the kind of initiative which I know you'll be backing.
Yeah, and I love it. And a lot of people and around the globe, I think they see what they see if they see something on TV or they'll read it. Golf course. Well, the great thing about this, especially with Golf Canada behind it, they've got some of their patrons who have helped with donations, whatever. But the one thing that I love is we're getting into the schools. I've always said for so many years that I love to get the golf clubs and these 100,000 kids. It starts in the school, because I've always said, if my two boys come home and say, you know what, Dad, here, I've got a coupon, we can go over here, we can play cricket. I played cricket in school today. I go, I am so in. Well, where I live, you just go north, it's very Sri Lankan, very Pakistani, and very Indian, right? And the great thing is, my two boys, their friends are cultural, and they see golf in our house. But if they were to go home after school and said, hey, Mom and Dad, I just played golf today. What? And look, I have an invitation to come to a driving range, which, in the area sort of thing. I think that's the way that is so exciting for me with the first tee program. It's not just what you see on TV. It's just not what you see in the brochures. It actually gets the kids in school, and also it empowers them. And I think this is something that in Canada, and I think abroad in the future, is going to be a great success. I really do.
Yeah, and as you say, that's not just the kids in deprived areas or from different backgrounds or from tough backgrounds. This is for all kids. The same things apply, and that's making sure people's understanding of that's clear is again a great message, and links into our next topic as well of what you're both doing around equity, diversity, and inclusion. To again popularize the sport and do what's right. Again, maybe Laurence, perhaps you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing in that space first, and then I'll come over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, I think obviously this is a big priority for both the PGA of Canada and Golf Canada. We've worked for a long time in this space, trying to we spent more time than you would think in listening and learning and trying to find where our best impact was gonna be had. From our side, we did almost a year of really intensive work amongst a group that we called our Diversity Alliance. It was a number of people from inside the golf world who volunteered to be part of the analysis and review of everything from our staff structures to the game to our impact on new Canadians, traditionally unrepresented communities. We have a large First Nations grouping in Canada that has an eagerness to participate in golf. And this was volunteers, staff. This was also a number of people who were new to our organization or new to golf who joined us. And it culminated in a year of hiring a director of DE&I and safe sport. And I'd like to talk about that as well at the end, Ian, is someone who wakes up every day and they integrate within our entire organization everywhere from events to hiring to searches to policy to play. We found an incredible individual. Her name is Laura Wilson. She had a background in para-sport, which is for sort of all ability sport. And she wasn't herself, grew up playing golf, but her family, that became their thing. And her son is actually a burgeoning professional. And she brought a new discussion, a new conversation to our organization. And we've actually put out a strategic plan, which is around DE&I. And we're very, very excited about what we're doing. And then at the same time, you know, as a segue to Kevin, we're so impressed with what the PGA of Canada's work has been in what they put out in the past few weeks. And we followed it very eagerly. So maybe Kevin, I'll turn to you before we go into Safe Sport.
Yeah, thanks, Laurence. And it is amazing. I think the great thing is that both organizations are working parallel. Of course, we always share whatever outcomes we find. And it was amazing. We had like a 17-person task force. And like Laurence said, ours were mostly outside of the golf industry. We had professors, we had people of all abilities, we had ethnicity. We didn't have a lot of golf pros because we didn't want the golf pro because we are not the experts. We want the experts. We had Liz Hoffman, the president of Golf Canada. Unbelievable! Like what a wonderful asset she was, and brilliant sort of thing. So we had collective from all over North America, to be honest. And one of those things where you said it earlier, Ian, we want to do what's right. We don't want to do what's modern or what's hot right now. That doesn't matter. We took a good look inside. And we let these task force, because we broke up into different groups, and say, look, we want to hear everything. Well, do you really want to hear this? No, we want to hear everything, because we are not about, just history. We're not just saying, okay, we are going to just do it the same way we've always done. And we've got 88 recommendations in front of the board. And we feel that every single one should be accomplished. So it's amazing, when you get some great people in the room, and Golf Canada's done the same. And it looks like we're, the wonderful thing, as normal, we're going down the same path together. So it's a very exciting time. And another thing that we're going down the path together is Safe Sport. I think Laurence is going to pop in and say something about Safe Sport Canada.
So one thing that's really quite a really hard moment in sport right now in North America has been the evolution of safety in sport. When we talk about safe sport, we talk about harassment-free, abuse-free, and in particular the protection of all of our participants, and especially our juniors and youth in our sport. And so we've tried to be at the forefront in providing a very safe environment for kids, young people to be involved in golf. And golf has had a very, very positive history in that regard, because it's been so well coached, because it's been so well, I would say, managed and administered. But there are some sports that are going through a really turbulent time and some really challenging moments, whether that's in sport or in things like other areas where the safety of children's involved. And so Kevin and I we've been part of a Respect in Sport movement, which was signing a pledge. We've been really, really critical and integral in making sure that golf remains one of the great sports and activities that allows kids to be in a very safe environment. And when you think about things that could really derail popularity and success, that's one of them. And unfortunately, we're seeing it in North America right now in some really horrible moments in soccer and in hockey that are really challenging. So if there's anything that Kevin and I couldn't be more aligned together and want to be on the front foot of, is making sure that this sport continues to be a real bastion of excellence in the safe sport area. So I think for all your members to continue to do good work in this area is really good to keep their eye on.
Well, absolutely, and the PGA professionals at the forefront of that in the firing line every day on making sure that is, you know, what you're proposing there and what you're securing there is lived out on a daily basis. So yeah, I mean, that's a message which definitely should be shared. So if you've got more information on that, likewise, we would love to have it and share it. And I think just this whole principle of golf enriching lives, all our organizations and our members having a true social purpose. COP26 going on. GEO, Golf Environment Organization, are running a session there tomorrow. Again, how can we all play our part in sustainability? You know, golf has this ability to just transcend just golf and just, you know, make an impact in other ways. And I think we all have a responsibility to that. And I think that links as well to also commercial values. You know, it's the right thing to do, and also commercially, it's become the right business decision to make as well. That if you haven't got a social purpose and you don't embody that social purpose, then commercially you're going to be frowned upon as well. And obviously, you've been hit with the loss of your championships, Laurence, but I'm sure they'll be back bigger and better next year. Kevin, you've had some fantastic triumphs, not least your RBC PGA Scramble, and we're seeing a new world of sponsorship. Gambling has come to the fore as well and become acceptable. Done in the right way. Huge deal today for the European Tour, being branded, the DP World Tour now for their main tour. So, and a big part of that announcement was Golf for Good and putting back into the sport as well. So maybe you could talk a little bit around some of those areas, as you know, how you're using your championships, how you're embracing new partnerships, and you know, how that feeds back into other areas.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna clear the stage for Kevin on this. I'll tell you why. One of the major successes in golf in the country in 2021 was absolutely the RBC Pro-Am Scramble, and it drove. I mean, as a interested spectator and fan, my sectional got rained out, so unfortunately I wasn't able to go on to the next round, and which gave Kevin a lot of happiness, I know. But it is a case study should be written on this event and how successful and how it's motivated the country behind one of the great amateur events. And we're not talking about a men's am or mid-am or a seniors event. We're talking about an amateur event that just gets golfers playing. And I'm blown away by the success and so happy because we share a great partner in RBC, and I know they're thrilled. So I just have to highlight, I have to give Kevin an opportunity to talk about the RBC Scramble.
And like Laurence says, we're both blessed because Laurence and I have both said it many times. Where would golf be in Canada with RBC, which is one of our largest banks, of course. So the great thing is they are, of course, the sponsor of the RBC Canadian Open, which is our PGA Tour event that Golf Canada runs and hosts, of course, and then our RBC PGA Scramble, which is, of course, the largest amateur event in Canada. And it's amazing where RBC has come to the table and helped golf out in so many different ways, not just those two large events I just mentioned, but other grassroots events. They're amazing what they've done through Golf Canada, through the PGA and other venues, and we're blessed with sponsorship. But also, those are two fantastic events. But also, Score Bet is now a partner of Golf Canada. Bet Regal is a sponsor of our PGA Championship, which is our oldest championship and our 100th. Due to COVID, we missed a year and other things. It's our 100th playing of the event, and they have come in fast and furious, and they've been fantastic. It's funny, we just had our PGA the Head Pro Championship, and they ran an event where you could just put up one of your pros' name, and they're all, it wasn't betting on the pro, but they put money into junior golf. They put money into program. They've been such a great sponsor in a short period of time, and we'll see that going forward over the years. I'm sure Laurence will see it with them also. We're both blessed to have some great commercial support.
Yeah, and I think RBC to be congratulated as other partners, because and it goes to show that just because they're supporting golf at one level doesn't mean they can't support golf at all levels. And obviously, if they're really going to see return on investment, I would argue best way to go. So it's obviously great that they're doing that. Laurence, do you want to expand on any of that?
No, I think you noted that we weren't able to run our PGA Tour event or our LPGA Tour event in the last 2 years due to COVID and the restrictions of travel. But I will put out a formal invitation to CPG members to come over to the RBC Canadian Open, nice. June 7th to 13th. No better time to come to downtown Toronto. It's going to be played at St. George's Golf Club. The practice facility will be Islington. It's a tremendous a tremendous location. It'll be a celebration. And Ian, I know you haven't been to Canada in a while, but it's time for you to bring the entire association. And Kevin, I think you'd be happy to host.
Absolutely. You can stay at my house. I'll stay at my house. Yeah.
Well, all of our members can stay at your house. Yeah, it's such a big house. But I mean, obviously, we'd love to do that, and Toronto's obviously a fantastic city, and can't wait for the opportunity to return. I was fortunate to be at the PGA of Canada's centenary, and that was some event, but long overdue return, as you say. And linked to your championships, I think at an elite level, Canadian golfers of both on the men's game and the women's game, probably unprecedented success. I think you've got more on the PGA Tour than ever, 10 at last count. And obviously Brooke Henderson right up there in amongst the leading lights of the women's game. Obviously, that is linked to the initiatives that Golf Canada put in place. It's linked to the skills of the PGA instructors, PGA coaches that are in place. How are you seeing obviously that's exciting. How are you seeing the future in elite golf, and how does that then feed back down to participation?
Well, I think there's two aspects maybe to comment on. Just some of the incredible moment we're having with some of these athletes, and then to talk about some of the coaches that have actually they've put these athletes on their shoulders. And so, as you mentioned, Ian, we'll have close to could be some events. We'll have 10 Canadians in the field at a PGA Tour event, which is really tremendous. Some exceptional results by Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes and even Adam Hadwin has had a nice resurgence in this fall period. But the new name to many people internationally is Taylor Pendrith, and Taylor had a really great event at the Bermuda Championship or the Bermuda event on the PGA Tour. I guess it was not this past weekend, but the weekend prior. He didn't finish the way he wanted. He was leading after 3 rounds, but he got his name known by many, and we're so thrilled that he's a wonderful young guy, just got married, huge game, hits it a mile, soft hands, and we're very lucky to have just another Canadian who's doing great. And then my comment about the coaching side is. We've had a really great run with our national men's head coach, Derek Ingram. He's an awarded PGA of Canada member. I think he's a multiple-time PGA of Manitoba teaching pro of the year.
No hands left.
Yeah, no hands left. But we spent a lot of time now with our new chief sport officer, Kevin Blue, try to share some of that knowledge, because we're getting a lot of reps on tours, and amongst the men, and the strength of the women with people like Brooke Henderson and Modamit LeBlanc coming back on tour. So we're going to try to share some of our success, but our real hope, Ian, is there's more coming, and that's what we're really looking forward to.
And if I can add in there, Ian, kudos to Golf Canada. I mean this sincerely, because like I've been in the business, I don't know, 43 years now. And that's a long time. I know I look younger than that, but it's one of those things where, you know, when I was young, it was like both of us, both organizations, we took care of the juniors, you know, at a Golf Ontario level or a Golf Saskatchewan level. We took care of the juniors, and then we got them into college or university, and then maybe sometimes we forgot about them. So, you know, that transition from being a great collegian to being on a tour, well, that's a tough step, isn't it? Well, I think right now, in the last, 10 years or so, 15 years maybe, you've seen the fruits, because Golf Canada is now supporting every level of golf, be it at the junior level, be it the collegiate level, be it at the young guns level, the young professionals. It's great to see. And like with the addition, Kevin Blue is their chief sport officer, you know, I've been privy to some great ideas that they have, and some, you know, some things that will be happening in Golf Canada's future. And I think the future is brighter than ever. We've had success this year. You can see it in the last couple of years. And that's from programs that were planted years and years ago. So kudos to Golf Canada, but also what you're going to see in the next 12 to 24 months, I think is also another you know, great example of what you're going to see in the future from Canadian golfers. So I can't say enough that the programs that were put in place and are going to put in place are showing and will be showing the fruits of their labors.
Yeah, and now you have more right-handers than left-handers, so it's a huge change. No, it's been great. Yeah, I know, exactly. It's been great to see the success of Brooke and Corey in particular, and I can't wait for that next generation. I know, sharing a house with you, Kevin, in Augusta, we all get behind Corey.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. That was fantastic.
So examples of that, you can feel the positivity, the passion, the vibe from even on this virtual forum. Just to finish off, I'll ask one takeaway from each of you, if you can, of maybe just something you're doing together that another country could take learnings from.
The first thing that I love, and I think it sums it up, it's what Laurence said earlier, and I'm going to steal it as if it was my own now, is that when we both walk in the room, it couldn't be us, we are good friends, but a federation and a PGA association, when they walk in the room or when they walk in the meeting, you know, what's best for golf? We're there for golf, as Laurence says, and I just think that's a fantastic view that, you know, let's put our differences aside. What happened 7 years ago? What happened 12 years ago? Remember the history of this? Remember what you did? Don't worry about it. Starting today, I really feel that when you're working together, what can we do for golf? And what can we do for the golfers in our country or our region, et cetera? I think that's a fantastic thing. Just, you know, put down the you know, the past indiscretions, whatever, and let's go forward from this day forward and say, what can we do for our golfers in our country? And it takes the federation and it takes the PGA members working in unison. Not one, you know, I wouldn't be bold to say that the PGA of Canada or the PGAs of, you know, of the world can do it alone. I think we've got to be partners, and we've proven that.
From my side, many people who you know, Ian, probably have played golf at one time with Kevin Thistle. And if there was a tour for putting from 25 yards off the green in, he might be best top 10 in the world, like top 10. So I have learned to putt from off the green. That is my first takeaway from playing a lot with Kevin. That would be my first. The second would be is,
that's just poor chipping, not great putting. Sorry.
And he makes it work. But I would just say pick one thing. You know, Kevin and I, we've picked we've picked we've picked a number of things we've talked about today, but probably we've picked First Tee together, and that's what we'll do in 2022 and really make an impact. So, you know, if your members can find, you know, building on what Kevin said, is between federations and your PGA association of your country, is pick one thing to do together, and you'll build from there. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, what a great episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you both. It's exciting times now. It looks like an even more exciting future for golf in Canada. You two are at the forefront of it, but I know there's a whole legions of staff behind you and other stakeholders in the game, and it's great to see that positive collaboration. So thanks so much for taking the time today. And Kevin, I look forward to seeing you in Portugal in a few weeks, and Laurence, hopefully Toronto next June, but certainly before then.
I'm already jealous.